topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. So thrilled to be here with you. It's Tuesday morning, and I'm excited to share a wonderful kindness story that one of you shared with us. So, thank you, Jenny, for reaching out to us and sharing. So, what Jenny shared was she was walking out of the gym, and what she saw was that there was a fellow gym worker, and he seemed in pain. It was almost like there was a muscle cramp or something like that. So what she did was she helped him become a little bit comfortable, took the phone, called the gym, and had the trainers come out. And they helped him in his car. And what was interesting was that the person was not feeling well. And Jenny stayed with him, and they took him to the hospital. And what they found was that he was having a mild stroke. So just imagine if he would have been in the car and driving. So you never know what your little act of kindness can do, how big of an impact it can have. So thank you, Jenny. And you are our hero for this week. What a hero. We want to celebrate you and give you a shout out. And thank you to each and every one of you who have got our books, because we are here to help you live the life you deserve and become that influencers and become that entrepreneur and leaders who creates impact in other people's lives. So our books will definitely do that. And if you have not got our books, please do get our books. They are available everywhere. And remember that partial profits from our book go to kiva.org, because we do believe that entrepreneurs can impact a lot of people. So today we have something very special in store for you. Let's welcome our guest. Welcome, Harvey.
Thank you, Divya. I'm just excited to be on your show.
Excited to have you. So we start out from the initial part of our life journeys. What's fascinating is that children are so open and curious. So do you recall a moment or a person from your childhood that left a positive mark on you?
Yes, there was a man that would come down and visit us all the time, and he was very funny, and he liked to tease me and play with me as a child. And yeah, I loved to see him. I couldn't wait till he, and I heard he was coming to visit us. I was just so excited to see him all the time. And yeah, he would always have something funny to say to me, or he'd play with me. He'd notice me. He would really pay attention to me. And as a child growing up, a lot of times the adults didn't pay that much attention. So this man was very special because he really noticed me, and he took time out to play with me, and he took time out to talk to me, and like I mattered. It was important. Like I was important in his life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is such a beautiful story that children, or for people for that matter, don't care about expensive gifts. I mean, of course, it's awesome to receive gifts. That said, when you give the gift of time and undivided attention, you said it made you feel important. He
Yes.
noticed you. That is so powerful. So as you travel through your life and as you grow, Harvey, which direction did your life take?
Well, I grew up in a my parents were refugees. They came over from Europe after the Second
Mm.
World War, lost everything, and had to borrow actually money from their church for passage. Had absolutely nothing.
Mm.
Desperately poor. My brother was 2 when they left Europe. He was born, and then my older brother. And when they came over, first 12 years, we were desperately poor. Um, my mother talked about feeding us for some days, my brother and I, on an orange. And I don't remember that. I don't remember ever going hungry or being without. Even though we were poor, I didn't notice it as much because most people in the neighborhood were. We were probably a lot more than even
Mm.
most of them. But anyways, that wasn't the thing though that was difficult about growing up. Was my father was very angry. He was a very angry man, and he would, we never knew when he would lash out and be very, very abusive, and it created a lot of conflict in the family. My mother didn't actually want to leave Europe. She didn't want to leave all her family behind, but and she missed them. And when we grew up, my brother also became abusive. I wanted I wanted to see more of the world. I was always a dreamer, and I wanted to see the big world out there and everything else. And so I went to university. I was the first one in my family to, to go beyond high school, and because I had done fairly well in school, and that was my escape from the
Mm.
situation that I was in, was getting an education. So luckily, I did well in school, and it was very difficult in high school. I remember one day my principal, who was sort of the most educated person that I knew that at the time, and he had traveled, and said to me, "Harvey, you have a good head on your shoulders. Don't let it go to your head." I remember those words, and they acted
Mm.
like a life raft for me. Actually, actually, I clung on to that. I remembered, yes, you're smart. You can really do what you want in life. And then I went along in life, and because of all the strife at home, the negativity, I picked up a lot of things that were not serving me well. A lot of negative things. Be careful of people. Everything. You have to always be careful. And I didn't want that. And even though I was working as a professional, and I didn't have the work I really wanted, or the people, the connections, the friends that I wanted to. So I was trying to help myself, and I read a lot of self-help books, and nothing really spoke to me. And then I read a book from somebody by the name of Daniel Goleman, wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. And on page 4, something jumped out at me that changed my life. It said, all of your intellect can come to naught once your emotions hold sway. And that's what it was. My emotions were holding me back. I picked up a lot of negativity growing up, and I had to overcome this. I had to turn my life around so I could be positive, and I could make better connections with people. So I started reading everything I could on emotional intelligence. I took courses, I took training, and eventually I said, well, all the books at the time were very academic, and it didn't have any real answers to what you could do to use emotional intelligence in your life. And I thought, somebody's got to write a book like this, because this is powerful. This is powerful. But in those books, you have to sort of pull out things and make up things on your own to actually improve your emotional intelligence. That was the missing part. And I said, somebody's got to write a book to show people how to do that. So I said, well, I'm a somebody. And I had written actually a book years before that, which before I'd heard about emotional intelligence and got it published. So I said, I can do that too. I can write a book. And it wasn't that easy, but I did manage to find an agent and a publisher, and sort of it took over my life. And I guess, like they say, the rest of history. I sort of been preaching about emotional intelligence, sort of sharing it with everybody I can through my writing, through my speaking, and everything, because it's totally turned my life around. I went and I joined a men's organization where it was a safe place to, and you're supported in sharing your feelings and what you were going through. Men could get together and do that. And so that absolutely helped me. And I would very highly recommend it for any man that's going through it. It's called the Mankind Project. It's a wonderful organization. So, and I've been on this wonderful journey ever since, and it's turned my life around. And yeah, I just can't say enough positive things about what emotional intelligence has done for me, and what it can do for anybody if they use it.
Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right when you talked about Daniel Goleman and that page number 4. And I have to say that your journey itself is very impressive. That you had this fork
Mhm.
in front of you and you chose to go in the direction of positivity and letting go of the past.
Mhm.
And maybe sometimes we are not fully able to let go of the past. So many people know that emotional intelligence is a buzzword. If
Mhm.
you were to explain it in simple layman terms, how would you describe emotional
Well,
intelligence?
the simply the sort of the basic uh, definition is it's our ability to recognize, to differentiate, and to manage our emotions and the emotions of others around us, which I wasn't doing that good a job before. But it's making our using our emotions to work for us rather than against us, because our emotions can be our best friend, because they give us very useful information, but it can also be our worst enemy if we're unable to manage our emotions. If they can really make our life very, very difficult. So I had problems with some of it because a lot of the things that I grew up with would trigger my emotions, and not in a good way. So I learned to manage them. I learned to experience more very positive emotions. So um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's to have our emotions work for us rather than having, because they can really trip us up. They can cause us lots of problems if we're not recognizing what's happening within us, if we're not managing them the way we could. And the one thing I could say was that I'm not totally convinced that we can manage others' emotions as well as we can manage our own. But here's a simple thing you can do if you don't believe. I know we can influence emotions. We can influence others' emotions to a great degree. And if you wonder about that, go into any mall or supermarket, and look at people. First of all, have a very sort of a stone face. Don't show any emotions or anything, and look at people, or even have a sort of a grouchy look on your face. Notice the reaction you get from people. Then smile. Put on the biggest smile you're able to, and then look at people and watch how they react to you. They react to the energy that you're sending out, the emotions that you are sending out. That's what you're sending out is what you're going to get back to a large degree. So yes, it's important to be aware of how you're coming across all the time. That's self-awareness is the most important, the first and most important part of emotional intelligence is to be aware of, because I wasn't aware of how I was coming across to people. And many people aren't there. And if they were aware, they would make an effort to come across differently probably than they are.
Hmm. You're absolutely right about emotional intelligence. It's about managing our emotions and scoping how others are doing and navigating it, influencing to the best of your ability as you can. And I love your social experiment because several years back I did that in New York. Because I've heard from so many people, oh gosh, New Yorkers are always in a rush, they're rude, and they don't have time. So, of course, because I was there on vacation, I didn't have anywhere to be. as is. And I love practicing mindfulness wherever I can.
Mhm.
So I decided to do an experiment. I just walked around and I was just smiling with a slight smile on my face. And it was very interesting that some people were kind of taken aback, because when you're walking, and I feel that every city has its own rhythm, like they're in this pace going fast, 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 fast. And this is before pandemic, of course.
Mhm.
But what was surprising was that most people, if the eyes connected and if I
Mhm.
smiled, they would smile back.
Mhm.
And that again goes back that yes, there's a reputation of New Yorkers, and yet people are people.
Mhm.
So, as you talked about, let's take it into different scenarios. So, now so many times what happens is that there is a shift in leadership. Before, there used to be authoritarian leadership, and now we are more about collaborative leadership, servant leadership, more about influencing people. And yet, just recently, one of my clients came in saying that she's doing everything she can, but her boss is micromanaging her and is very, very toxic. So her boss has two different faces. So her boss, when she's talking to the stakeholders and to the leadership team, she is just a different person, very pleasant. And when she is coming
Mhm.
and talking to my client and my client's reports, it's like they literally dread her being in
Mhm.
the meeting. And of course, this is all on Zoom, being the whole remote culture, at least for this company.
Mhm.
So now, when this happens, do you have any tips for our listeners or for my client?
Mm. Yeah, that's that's a difficult situation. But I did actually write an article one time about how to teach your boss emotional intelligence without them knowing it, sort of doing it. The one thing we can do is try to not prepare ourselves, and even though we know what our boss is going to come across as, we're not in control of it. We're in control of how we react. So if
Hmm.
we smile, if we're
Yeah.
pleasant
Hmm.
to our boss, regardless of, if we expect them to be not very nice to us, be nasty to us, but if we put on, we say, well, okay, I'm going to smile. I'm going to be very, very pleasant and nice. There's things that we can do. We can notice things about them. If we know anything about them, say something that they like. Okay, for example, they have somebody in their family, they have a pet that they really love and stuff like that. We can see if we could somehow bring that into the conversation. Ask them about that. Ask them about something that they know. We know something about them. The more we can find out about their life, their background, the more information we will have to try to get them onto a positive note. For example, they have this dog that at home, that a pet that they're really fond of, or something has happened that they really enjoy. If we can somehow bring that in and let them know, try to turn them into a way that's more positive. And if they do anything, if they do anything at some point that you really appreciate and enjoy them for, let them know that. Let them know that, because maybe, see, we don't know what our boss is going through. We don't know the pressure
Hmm.
that they're under. We have no idea what's going on with them in their work life, and we don't have any idea of what's going on at home with people. Like, people are going through things we don't know anything about. So instead of starting off with a with a mindset that this is a miserable person, and we just really don't want to be anything to do with them, come from the places they're maybe going through a lot of difficulties we know nothing about, a lot of pain, and try to see if there's any way that we could help them with that, say by showing some appreciation for something that they've said or anything they're doing. Look for things to be positive about. It'll make it easier for us if we do that for our own well-being, as well as maybe helping them.
Absolutely. And as you shared that, sometimes people are going through pain. And actually, not in this case, but there was another client who could not get her employee to be engaged. And she tried everything under the sun, as you're mentioning, being nice to her, figuring it out. And then later down the road, as we had talked about, what I and her came up with a solution is just having a safe space where she could just open up without any fear of retribution, without any fear of like, oh, if I divulge this, then my career is going to get impacted, my job's going to get impacted.
Yeah.
So she took her out for lunch, and then she found out that her employee had been going through IVF and couldn't get pregnant.
Oh, yes.
And that just changed the scenario. And going back to the previous example of my client, she tried everything. As you had mentioned, a lot of people, and things couldn't change, where they were not able to pull her in. And then sometimes, as you're talking about, there's only our emotions we can control and our response or our reactions. So they kind of come to terms with it, and they didn't expect anything. So rather than going into the meetings or into the conversations with the mindset, oh, this person is going to be nasty and then this is going to impact me, it's more of a place that it's okay. Yeah. They are going to be who they are. I'm going to be who I am.
Yes, just don't let your don't let your emotions get sucked into where they're coming from. Just manage your own emotions. And do whatever you can to, if you're able to to help them at the same time to become more positive, and do that. But manage your own first and foremost. That's the most important thing. So you don't become part of what they're going through.
You're absolutely right. So there are so many people, whether they're in the boardrooms or in the meeting rooms, whether you're walking down the street, whether you're an entrepreneurial, in so many different areas, you just see that there are some people who just have this ability to influence others. And they form close relationships without even trying.
Yes.
So can you share what are some of the pointers that you can know whether you have any of those qualities, and what people can do to implement that to bring it?
Well, even if we don't have those qualities, we can develop them. If we make a conscious effort. I never had those qualities at one time at all, but I learned them, and I'll just give you example of yesterday. I go to the pool. I go to exercise 4 times a week, and there's a man that comes. He doesn't do exercise. But he comes there and he goes into the pool when people are out, and he goes in the steam room, and I talk, and he's blind. He has a white cane, and he can be at times grouchy, quite grouchy actually. I encountered him one time in the steam room. It was just after COVID, and he berated me for apparently I was breathing too heavy, and he thought he was going to become ill. But anyways, I decided I was going to reach out to this man, and so we had some fun, because he was trying to find his locker, and of course he has to go by feel, and he was he was in the wrong locker, and he was going to put on somebody else's pants. And we had a real joke, a joke about, so wouldn't it be funny if I went home wearing somebody else's pants? And we shared a real good joke. And since then, I've been talking to him, all the time, and he's quite pleasant. And when you talk to him, he loves to talk, and he'll ask you, oh, did you come in just for your exercise, your workout, and everything? And yesterday morning he was just getting changed. He was getting dressed when I came into the locker room, and he had his brush, and he was combing his hair. He had very little hair, but he was he was brushing his hair, and I said, "Joe, you look very handsome." And he just burst out with a great big smile. He was so happy, that somebody because because he couldn't see himself. He didn't know even how to look.
Mm.
You're looking very handsome, Joe. And oh, he was just, and he was talking, and he was just so happy that somebody had paid attention to him, and had talked to him. So yeah, if we reach out to people, and sometimes I'm a bit of an extrovert. I have to make the effort. I have to be conscious of it and make the effort to reach out. But since I've been doing that, I'm feeling so much better. And at first, sometimes it doesn't come natural. It didn't come natural to me to sort of reach out and start conversations with people, but I'm doing it now. And the more I'm doing it, the more comfortable it becomes, and it's becoming almost like now it doesn't cost me very much discomfort to do it. It's almost like it's becoming more natural and becoming more outgoing. So the more we push through our comfort zone, the more our comfort zone expands, and the more comfortable we will be doing things that we were uncomfortable with before. And our old way of doing things sort of vanishes. It melts away as we become more comfortable in our new space.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Uh,
So, what would you say are some of the characteristics of emotionally intelligent people, especially when you are seeing people in the professional, organizational space?
yeah, the emotionally intelligent people are interested in other people. The first thing you can tell somebody's emotionally intelligent is if they're having a conversation with you. And a conversation, I mean, they're asking you about yourself. They're listening to you. They're actually listening to what you're saying, because most people, well, a lot of people, maybe not most people, when we're speaking, they're thinking of a response. They're not really listening. But emotional intelligent people, they really listen, and they want to understand. They want to really hear what you're saying. And because we so seldom are really heard when we're speaking, because people are thinking response. Somebody who actually listens and asks us questions, we really feel connected to them, and then remember things about people, and after, in later conversations, bring those things up. They'll say, "Wow, somebody's remembered this about me." They, I feel special. I feel important. I'm important to that person. There's so many conversations that it's not a conversation, it's a monologue. Somebody's speaking about something, and they don't even have any idea if you're interested in that, or don't seem to be conscious of the fact that you may have no interest at all in what they're saying. Emotionally intelligent people want to talk about something that we both want to talk about. We want to make a connection. Emotional intelligent, they remember people's names, they remember things about them. They don't get themselves upset very quickly. They're able to really monitor their moods, their emotions. They're able to push their boundaries. They're always trying new things. They're not afraid to make mistakes. They'll say they're sorry. They make mistakes, but they're very conscious of where they are, where they're coming from. They're conscious of how they influence other people, how other people react to them. So that you won't have to sit there and listen to them talk about something that you have absolutely no interest in. They won't carry on. It won't be a monologue when you speak to them. They will actually, you'll have a good back and forth conversation where you can both feel very connected.
That definitely makes sense.
So,
And I know you have written that book that you had talked about, where you talk about simple things that we can do in our day-to-day lives. So, would you be sharing with us a few of those that our audience can take away and put it into their lives immediately?
yes, well, the first thing that we can do is what I like to do is get up, and I like to start the day on a very positive note. So I write at least 10 things and it's called a gratitude book that I'm grateful for.
Hmm.
That allows me to start off from a positive place. Okay, a place where, you know, the world is a good place. You know, like a lot of people, the world is not a good place. It starts me off on a place of positivity. If I do that, I know my day is going to go better, because if something happens, I can always think back to, oh, you know, there's so many good things that I have to be grateful for. Yeah, go out there and when you're talking to people, remember things about them. Ask them questions about things that are important to them. Names, remember their names, and remember how to pronounce their names, because there's so many people with names that are difficult for us, maybe because from different cultures. Learn how to pronounce that name. There's nothing more important to us than our name. So if somebody remembers our name and also takes the time and effort to learn how to pronounce it properly, that makes a strong impression. You know, little things like that all the time, and just do little things to make people's day. If you see something about the person that you really like, oh, you know, that's really a nice shirt. Say that. If somebody's ever said that to you, you know, when you just, some stranger you're walking past says that to you, remember how you feel. You feel so good. You just, it makes your day. You feel good. Try to do that for people. You'll, not only will they feel better, but you'll feel a lot better. You know, your day will go much smoother. You'll feel a lot better. So very simple things like that. Just always look for the positive. Don't there's negative that's going to happen. You know, you're going to see the news. It's mainly negative, but look for the positive. Don't try. You have to be aware of the negative, but of things that are going on in the world. But you don't have to inundate yourself with it. Just try to look for the positive all the time.
Yeah, no, definitely very insightful tips. And I agree with you that if you're sitting down and watching news, it's always the negative spin. Well, that's a hyperbole. But that said, like, most of the times it
Hmm.
is a negative spin. So I've gone on news fasting. And what I do is I'll just look at the feed, headlines. I'm still aware of it. As you mentioned, it's important to be aware of it. Now, if we shift the scenario, so let's say an individual contributor is becoming a manager the first time, and what happens is that individual contributor are so much ingrained into their day-to-day lives, and they are used to working on the tangibles, where that, okay, this is the project I have to take and I have to finish it and I have to submit it. It gotta be done really well. And now they have become a manager, or going from manager to technical lead, whatever it is, and now they may have few people reporting into them.
Hmm.
What advice would you give them so that that transition is a smooth one, where they're not keeping that individual contributor mindset, but stepping into the leadership
Yes.
role with emotional intelligence?
Yes. Well, there's a danger of if you know, you're stepping into that leadership role. There's a danger if you don't make the switch into the leadership, that you could be micromanaging, looking at everybody's work over their shoulders and do the micromanaging, which isn't a good thing. You have to let go of the day to day needing to sort of do it all yourself, and you have to trust your people that they're going to do they're going to do the work. So the other thing is to get to know you're going to have to get to know your people better, and is to form connections with them, talk to them, find out more about them than just what's going on in their work life. Find out, if you can, about their personal life, what they like, what sort of things they like, and get to know them, all of these people on a more personal level, so you can actually support them in that way, emotionally, and trust them, learn to trust them. And of course, you're going to have to, if something goes wrong, you're going to have to, confront them with it, but also let them know that you trust them, and that you believe in their abilities. That's very, very important, because and that they can come to you with anything, any concerns, that they don't have to, when something's going wrong, they have no need to hide it. They can depend on you. If they make a mistake, it's okay. They can come to you. Just build those relationships with people, because it's a whole different role now. You have to depend on them, and they have to depend on you. So yeah, just focus on forming those relationships instead of looking at every detail of the work that they're doing.
Definitely. Because as you mentioned, that there's that danger of falling into micromanagement. Now, versus if you're sitting down with your reports and
Yes.
asking them what is their vision for the coming year, where do they see themselves growing into the role, or what could they bring to the team? And when you're inspiring people, then what happens is that external motivation shifts to the internal inspiration. And when you're doing that, you're also creating that safe space where
Yeah.
they're able to fail, as you mentioned, because it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. You're there for them to support them.
Yes.
And when people know that you have their back,
Mhm.
then there's a shift where they start trusting you. And when there is trust, then that's what forms the foundation of the relationship.
Yes. And it's important to get to know them all as individuals, so that
Mhm.
you can show your appreciation for when they're doing good work in ways that one size doesn't fit all with all your people. Some people like to be shown appreciation in front of a large group. Oh, you're doing such wonderful. Some people don't want that. Some people like sort of more introverted. They like individual sort of attention, things like that. And that's where it's important to get to know your people as well, very well, and know what they're like, know how they like to be shown appreciation, and be very generous with your appreciation. Like, who was it that said? Andrew Carnegie. Catch them doing something right, instead of looking for things, instead of trying to find things that they're doing wrong. Try to catch them doing something right. That's always the first thing you should do, is look for things that they're doing right, instead of focusing what they might be doing wrong. Yeah, have that focus.
Absolutely. No, and that's very powerful, that catch them doing things right. And as you're giving them real-time feedback, the power in that is so powerful, because that's only going to enhance their performance, and it will help them continue building their continue building their confidence. And when they continue building their confidence, it's helpful to so tell us, where can people find your books?
Well, they're available on my website, the other kind of smart.com. That's one word. Or they can find them on Amazon, sells them, and a lot of other bookstores, Book Boom, just all of them. They would carry my book, the online stores, and you might find it in your local bookstore. But if it's not there, they would be able to order the books in. But and it's available in my latest is available in hardcover. It's also available in ebook format, and I believe it's available in an audiobook format as well now.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And as we bring our show to a close, are there any last one or two tips that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, the become a better listener is the best way we can make connections with people, and it's just to try to. The one thing we can do is actually we can practice becoming better listeners by somebody in our family, or a good friend that we trust, sitting down with them and having them speak for 3 minutes, and then us feeding back to them what we heard them say. That way we won't have the urge to respond to whatever they're saying. Our only job will be just to listen and feedback. We can practice listening, active listening, become an active listener. That is one of the most powerful tools we have of making stronger connections with people, becoming more emotionally intelligent. So just practice active listening and asking more questions when someone's speaking. Oh, tell me more about that or something. Don't ask closed-ended questions like, okay, but open-ended. Tell me more about that. So how do you feel about that? You know, what made you decide on that type of thing, so that they can get into the story a little more. They'll really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because when you learn about the other person, there's always this beautiful thing that something will stand out to you about them.
Yes.
And then when you keep that in mind, it's not even about trying to remember it. Because if it stands out for you, and if you have been listening to understand, listening to get to know the other person, you will remember it.
Yes.
And
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes the foundation of a start of a strong relationship.
Right. Yes, because we all, as humans, we have the need to be heard. We, feel heard, and it's important for managers to know that even though the situation, there's nothing we could do to change it, perhaps, but the person that's coming to us with a concern has that need to be heard, and if we hear them, they're going to walk away a lot happier than when it came to us. Even though they know we can't do anything to really change that. They're aware of that, but they need to feel heard, and we all need to feel heard. And when somebody hears us, that person becomes, we form a connection with that person, because it's a rare thing to really be heard, and we all have the need for that, to feel heard, because when we're heard, we feel we're important, and we all need to feel that too. Yeah.
And that brings us back to our circle of the story where you started.
Yes.
When you had shared that when you were a little boy,
yes.
And you felt important because there was this person who gave you his full attention. And
Exactly.
that's the key, is that when you're in space with someone else, create that space for them. Just be there for them.
Exactly.
So I'm sure our listeners would love to find out where they can connect with you. Social media, what's your preference?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. That's the main place. I'm on Facebook too. I'm not on Facebook much, but LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me. Just find me under my name, and I spend a lot of time on that platform. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they can also reach out to you on your website, which is the other kind of smart.
Yes. On my website, there's a free emotional intelligence quiz that I have. It's 15 questions. It's a fun quiz. It won't take long. It's self-scoring. The idea is not to take it seriously, but it will give you a good feeling of what emotional intelligence is. More than actually, I could talk about what it is, but these questions will give you a much better feeling of what it actually is. So have fun with the quiz, and you can learn more about me on the site.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, Harvey. It was wonderful to have this conversation with you about emotional intelligence and making people's lives better, because that's what the life is about, creating impact and helping others live the life they can live beautifully, and just keep on spreading the joy. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Divya, for having me on. I really enjoyed it. Had a great time. Thank you.
Awesome. I enjoyed it too.
Okay.
And thank you, wonderful audience, because you know that without you, the show would not be possible. Reach out to us, tell us your kindness stories, and let us know how we can support you, who else can we bring, so that you have a wonderful life. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. Until next time, be well and take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.